Just talking.
Amazing.
You guys joined us here on your anniversary.
Did.
Happy anniversary, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How many years?
5.
Chase,
Nice.
take your time answering.
5. Yeah.
A
Carry
full
the 2.
hand. How's it feel? Did it go by fast?
It's like one of those things where you feel like you've always been married, but then it happened really quickly at the same time, like COVID.
Yeah.
Like COVID.
We got married during COVID, so
So.
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So what were the big plans today before you got roped into joining us two fools in the garage?
This was it. We were looking forward to this. I think we decided this, like a week ago. We kind of
What?
went through some scheduling.
We were probably just going to do dinner if we didn't do this, something boring. This is much more exciting.
We did lunch, though.
We did.
They're flattering us, but I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Have y'all been on a podcast before? Ever?
No.
No.
First time?
Sick.
Chase, you have a radio face. You have
That
a,
means, yeah, you don't.
you have a face for radio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I get that.
Just kidding. I think you're kind
I'm
of
going to
cute.
get a lot of likes on this. I'm going to boost your.
It's all about you, actually. That's
No,
why we're here.
It's all about.
That's right. That's right. That's why he's front and center.
You set that up. We actually talked about that beforehand. He's going to set me up.
Welcome back to the garage, everybody.
Happy to be here.
Boom. All right. The Catholic Dad Pod, hashtag 4 people in a garage today.
And a dog.
Oh, and a dog. What's up, bud?
3 dads and a mom and a one-eyed dog.
True that. That's a motley crew if I've ever heard
Yeah.
of one before. Folks,
Hello.
this is the first time we've had a dog on the podcast. This is awesome. What's this stuff? Poops? River, that's right. Take
Good
me
boy.
to your river. I want to know. It's a great song.
Did you know not all dogs are good boys?
This one is.
Some are good
Take
girls.
that back.
Yes.
Okay, I have one of those. Well, it depends on the day. She's sometimes
Yeah.
good and sometimes jumping over 6-foot fences without touching anything.
That's impressive.
It's
though.
impressive.
She's a freak. But yeah, this boy right here just got surgery. He has one eye now, but he's taking it like a champ, and I'm super proud of him. He's awesome.
He's a pirate. Obvious Halloween costume when that comes up.
Still the goodest boy.
Yes. All right. Folks, today we have the pleasure of having 2 very dear friends, Chase and Karlie Kincaid, joining us in the garage. They were kind enough, like we said, to join us on their anniversary. So we are very honored by that. But we kind of knew they'd be down. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. Mainly we're going to talk about them and about their lives and their journeys. And we think it's going to be something that people certainly resonate with on a lot of different levels and probably from a lot of different stages of the stories that we're about to hear individually and together. We got to start this off with quick introductions, just kind of the surface level stuff. However, whichever order y'all prefer, just tell us real quick, boring surface stuff. Who are you guys? Real fast.
Ladies first.
I'm Karlie Kincaid. I was born and raised in Texas, up in the top of the Texas Panhandle. And then I went to A&M for college. And then right after I graduated from there, I moved to Dallas and got my first big girl job. And I've been in software sales ever since. That's me.
That was good. You rehearsed that. Hey, everybody. I'm Chase Kincaid. That's where she gets the last name from. I was born in New Orleans, but only did a quick stint there for 3 years. It's kind of how Alex and I connected, but we'll get into that later. Grew up on a lake north of Auburn called Lake Martin. Some people have probably heard of it. I went to Auburn, not too far from my hometown. And then I took a stint in Atlanta and then moved to Dallas for a couple years, met my beautiful wife. And now I coerced her to moving back to Auburn to raise a family.
What do you do, Brock?
Oh, yeah. I'm in sales.
Jack. And how many children do y'all have?
We've got 2. We've got Izzy, who's 3.5, and then we've got Jack, who is just over a year old.
Right on. All right. Okay. Little fun part real quick. We always talk about the meetings and first impressions. So I'm going to let you go, Ryan, first, because our story's a little longer with these 2, mine and these 2 over here. So
Be
first
nice.
time y'all met and first impressions. And y'all have to talk about your impression of him too as well.
Sure.
So we'll let Ryan go first.
I get to throw the first punch. This is nice.
It's not fair.
We're
Yeah.
gonna return. So
I love when the first impression is a judgmental moment for me because
we actually talked about this too not too long ago.
and it's very, very frequent that it is a judgmental moment for Ryan. So maybe not so much for Alex, but certainly for me. So the first time I met Chase, and I mean this in no disrespect, but like we were at Marriage and Family, so I really was kind of focused more on like, do I like this guy? I don't even know if we really spoke
no, I don't.
at that meeting.
He was focused on me.
Yeah, this
Sussing you out.
with these baby calves and everything. No, so Alex and I have touched on this before. Like the Marriage and Family meeting for us was kind of weird to say the least. Like going into it, just trying to get to know other guys in the parish because I didn't really have, I can speak for you too, connections like that, friendships like that within our parish. So when Chase walked in, I was like, okay, cool. Here's another guy who's around our age. He's tatted up. Like we can relate on some level, right? So we sat down. I think we sat at the same table for dinner that night, but Alex was there. So it was kind of an introduction through Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And I left that and I was like, that guy's like talking to a brick wall. I'm like, yeah, I thought he was cool, but he's not. This guy's just never gonna. I don't like him. Like, if he shows up to any more meetings, I'm sitting somewhere else. And maybe not that dramatic, but yeah, I don't know what it was. Probably my mentality about most things that I was just guarded and walls up and judgy. So I didn't really think that Chase and I would lead to being friends. I think later on, not too long after that, we might have run into each other at something at Alex's house. Maybe it was a gumbo cook-off or something. And again, like kind of cordial, just like, hey, how you doing? But we didn't know each other at all. Yeah, I was just like, I kind of just wrote you off.
Very surface level actions.
Yeah. But I wrote you off without ever getting to know you.
Yeah.
And then it really was our wives getting really close. And then that led to more exposure between all of us and then, retreat time and things like that. So first impression of Chase, probably not the most favorable. First impression of Karlie, anybody who knows Karlie would probably back me up. She's just so sweet. Like, it's like, how does she date this guy?
Yep.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I had no reservations or misconceptions on who Karlie was because she just comes off so sweet, and you guys will get to know that throughout this episode. But there you go. First impressions of me.
You gonna go first?
Be sweet, Chase. I was sweet to you.
I'll be sweet. Yeah. So obviously, we had the same meeting, right? Marriage and Family. I think from a different perspective, I'm a pretty reserved guy. I think until you get to know me, right? I think both of you would agree with that. And I kind of like stay away from super loud and cocky people, maybe confident, overly confident, some might say. But that was my first impression. Like, I mean, and it wasn't necessarily anything you did or didn't do. I think when I saw you, and I think I told you this, I was like, I don't know about this guy. Because my interaction with Alex is like, we'll get into this later, but like, oh, he's so kind and so welcoming. And I think with you, I was a little standoffish and reserved, and I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna like this guy. But lo and behold, months later, and a common theme in my life is my wife kind of leads me in certain ways to open myself up and really give people a shot. And, I think that absolutely happened. And I think I told her probably a couple months ago, and you and I talked about this. I was like, I think we're pretty close to the same people.
We're the same.
Yeah.
mentality.
And that's why I didn't like you, is because there can only be room for one, right?
Chase and I played a golf tournament together, and I absolutely showed up with my C game at best. But throughout that whole weekend, everything we told, every story we told, every interaction we had, we're like,
oh, I got one just like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We lived the same life. We just did it in different places.
Yeah. And so I think that's like an interesting kind of, I guess, tale. It's, give somebody a shot, right? Open yourself up a little bit. But yeah, I didn't like you at first.
High five, brother. I didn't like you either. Love you.
Love you.
And my first impression of you was very similar as yours was for me. I didn't really have like a very strong opinion of you. I was always more focused on the women and whether I liked your wife, which thankfully for you, I did like her very much. So
Everybody likes her.
yeah, but I thought you were a nice guy. Had no qualms.
Thanks, Chase.
No issues with it.
Well, if Tess was in here, she'd be like, I think Chase was a nice guy.
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. We'll talk about that later.
My turn. Okay. Before we get into that story, I'll just say Chase and Karlie, I have known them now over 3 years, which is actually hard to believe because Chase said the year we met the other day, and I was like, what? It's been that long? Which really just truly surprised me how much has happened. Chase and Karlie are both two extremely intelligent people. That's something that I have always known about them. And I think y'all will see that in the way that they speak and how they analyzed and discerned their journeys. I'm really excited. I've been very excited all week to talk about this stuff, folks. But they're just both very, very intelligent people and very intentional people. So I'm just excited for you all to see that. But Karlie, you need to kick this story off because this story of us meeting starts with you. So you do it.
Yes, it does. So as I mentioned, I'm in software sales, and my company is a very large publicly traded company. I won't mention the name here, but it was a crazy instance where I got in a very small group enablement with somebody that I'd never met before. And I saw that he had an Auburn graduate certificate on the back of his wall. And I was like, oh, did you go to Auburn? He's like, yeah. And we get to talking for at maximum 5 minutes. And he's like, yeah, I still come to Auburn. He knew Chase's dad. We had all of these mutual connections. And I was like, oh, cool. Like if you're ever in town, hit us up. We'll, Chase would love to go golfing with you or whatever. Not thinking anything of it. You say that kind of stuff, thinking that people won't take you up on it. I mean, we spoke for 5 minutes. And so he slacks me like 2 weeks from that time. And he was like, hey, I'm actually going to be in Auburn. And I've got friends who are your age and have a daughter that's your age, because we just had Izzy at the time. And you guys should come over and hang out with us. And this is very outside of our comfort zone. We're like, we just moved here. We don't know anybody, but we should give it a shot because we don't know anybody. And so we go and we have a bottle of wine in hand and we're like knocking on the door thinking.
So pause, because I'm going to take it from my side real quick. Oh yeah. Okay. So the person Karlie is talking about is my good friend Kyle, one of my best friends from college, the core group. Kyle's from Atlanta. And he says, hey, can I come stay with you guys for a couple of days? Going to be in Auburn doing this like career fair thing. Sure thing. So he says, yeah, I met this, coworker of mine, basically worked for the same company on this Zoom call. It was like a team building thing. And come to find out, her father-in-law, not only she says, oh, he knows Chase's dad, but Chase's father was Kyle's mentor in college, in the business school. So like they definitely knew each other. And says, I've been wanting to meet her and her husband. I think you guys would hit off. And Lucy and I at this time in our lives did not have we didn't have any friends in Auburn. I'll just be honest. We knew some people, but, we got back to Auburn, COVID, grad school, getting the new jobs as NPs. It was very, very business. And, everybody from college graduates and leaves. So you just didn't have that, foundation anymore. So we said, yeah, bring them over. Also a little out of our comfort zone, but, we were also kind of playing home court advantage because it was our house. So Kyle was already with us and we invited Chase and Karlie over. So yeah, we're sitting on my back patio and, Kyle says, she texted me, they're here. And I'm walking to our gate to open the gate and they're walking in, bottle of wine in hand. Continue,
and
Karlie.
We said, we only have to stay for like 30 minutes. Like we just have to show face, and because we were invited, we can leave in 30 minutes. No big deal. We just want to try it out. And we show up, and my first impression is that Chase said it earlier. Alex is one of like the most warm and welcoming and inviting. So immediately we felt not at home, but pretty much right at home.
Well, I think I felt awkward.
Yeah, he was awkward,
Because,
but I felt comfortable.
Like, I love Alex to death, but when you meet him for the first time, I've never had a friend that was so welcoming and so I don't know another way to put it, but just affectionate, right?
I couldn't agree more.
And all of my friends are like that, so I was like, "Yay!"
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
But it takes you off guard.
yeah,
Since me and you are so simpatico,
yeah.
I guess.
You're like, okay, he's like hugging me. Okay, we're hugging.
Then you get close enough, it gives you a kiss on the cheek every now and then.
Oh,
That's how you really know you made it.
So not only did we stay 30 minutes, but we ended up staying like 4 hours or so. And it was a school night, so
What's that one?
yeah.
It was a
like
Thursday night.
Yeah, it was a Thursday night.
Oh yeah, we had Thursday. No, it was preseason. It was right before college kicked off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks later, you guys came over and, you guys had been tailgating. We've been tailgating, got back to the house, kids down for nap, and we watched Auburn get whooped by Penn State. But just like a lot of bonding, and we all bonded very quickly, very, very quickly. When y'all walked in, I definitely saw it on both your faces, though, of like the, ready to maybe swipe at me if I was coming at you crazy. Yeah, bolt if needed for sure. And that's, I get it for sure. But it was funny. You should have seen me. I was like blowing everything off before you guys got there and like make it look like we're decent people, but
he still does that every time.
It's gotta look neat. I need to do that right now. It's bugging me bad. Fall has started, y'all. Anyways, my first impressions were simple. It was just I liked them. I definitely could be friends with them. They're great. You just really hope that something actually will come from it, because sometimes you get hope and just nothing ever happens, and you're like, okay, well, it was a random one night that I'll forget about within a couple months, but one night stand, one night friend stand.
That's how I felt about Kyle. It was like we had a great conversation, but nothing will ever come of it. You have a lot of those where you meet people and you're like, they're lovely, they're so nice. I would love to be friends with them, but then it just kind of.
Believe me when I say this, Kyle is the person who will take you up on that offer, or vice versa. He is that guy.
When we left too, like we were driving home and we were talking to each other and we're like, oh, I hope this actually turns into something. We need to invest in this. Right?
Yeah.
Like, we can't just let this like die off.
For sure.
It was a decision for us.
Yep, same. And it definitely has borne much fruit. And also our houses are literally 0.5 miles from each other. So that really, really helped right off the bat
really
too.
sad. Yeah. You really have to be lazy not to keep up with friendship.
Yes.
Hey, Mike.
But I will say, like, when you're in that position, every one of us had that similar situation of trying to put yourself out there to meet people in your church or just in your community. It's one thing when your wife has a good vibe or the husband has a good vibe, but if it's not at the same time, it's a chore, because then it's like I've told Alex this before, but like at the moment I was like, I don't know if I'd be friends with him either. Same thing I said for you. And it's like, oh, we're going to go hang out with all these people again. And it's like, we're going to do that on a Friday night.
Eye roll. Yeah.
But slowly but surely. So for any husbands listening, listen to your wife. Just understand that more often than not, it's going to materialize into this. I don't know if it's often, but none of us wanted to you and I didn't want to listen.
I would say give it a shot. Like, don't, if you're going to be there, be there. Be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Be present.
I mean, besides Avery, like, we've met some really cool people. So I hope he listens to this.
He is.
We love you, Avery.
Yes. Miss you, brother. Alrighty. Okay. So now to brass tacks. We all like each other. Great. We brought Chase and Karlie in and are super excited to talk to them because we want to hear about their stories of faith. So we'll take it step by step. What we want to know first is pretty straightforward, and y'all can take as much or little as you want to answer this, any of these questions, frankly. But tell us about growing up, in what faith denomination you were brought up in, how serious was faith in your family, church, how often, and I would love also to know your family's opinions of Catholicism and your own opinions of Catholicism growing up.
You start.
Okay. So I grew up as a Baptist, and our family kind of morphed into non-denominational Christians as we grew up. And I would say our faith was important to us, but we were not like every week goers. There was stints of time where we did, but there was a lot of times where we prioritized other things. But it was never a question of whether I was a Christian. I was always very much like knew that that was what I was, but I would say I never really thought about Catholicism as I was growing up. I didn't know a lot of Catholics. It wasn't something that was kind of like, I was actively present with. But when I did get interested into it, which we can talk about that, but whenever it did happen, my parents were very much against any kind of exploration into Catholicism.
When you say you morphed into non-denominational, why and like how did that happen? Why do you think that happened?
I don't really know exactly why. It probably had something to do with a particular pastor at our church, and we just didn't like him, or the music or something. Any reason that they switch. Maybe there was a scandal. I was young and I didn't know, or something like that. But there was no real reason to move other than we just didn't like some small aspect of it. And then as I got into college and everything, it was like everything I was exposed to was a non-denominational, more mega church-ish vibes. But yeah.
So as you got up through like kind of those high school and college years, obviously identifying strongly as a Christian, maybe sort of still finding that correct road or avenue, your way back to the Catholic Church, really. What was your faith practicing like? Like, were you reading the Bible? How was your prayer life? Kind of go through some of that for us.
Yeah, I would say pretty lukewarm.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to church on Sundays, but it was more social. All my friends were going. I prayed, but I wouldn't say it was like a huge part of my life. But yeah, pretty lukewarm, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did get to go to one non-denominational service like last month, and I was like, I mean, the coffee being served is nice.
It's nice.
The show,
It is nice to have coffee.
So, yeah. Besides that, it was a little uncomfortable at times, but yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Chase,
My turn.
obviously you guys grew up in two totally different places. So let's get into your little faith journey and upbringing.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, my grandparents, both sides, were both Catholic. Yeah. So the Sicilian side Catholic, the Scottish, Irish side Catholic. And
this guy never stood a chance.
Yeah. I was always going to come back or go there. But my mom and my dad kind of like started off as Catholic, and then as they grew up, some things happened in the church that turned my grandparents away, and by that product turned my parents away. And so I grew up Episcopalian, right? Catholic light. Like they don't want to get too far from Catholicism because they believe in a lot of the teachings, but some things happen, and unfortunately, that turned them away. So I grew up Episcopalian, but around like probably 10 or 11, we lived 45 minutes from the nearest Episcopal church, right? And then all of my friends, kind of to what you were saying, were going to Methodist church. So we went to Methodist church growing up, and it wasn't every Sunday. We would go maybe 4 or 5 times a year, right? And the one thing that was always constant in my family is that we always prayed. We prayed over every meal. My parents prayed over both my brother's bed and my bed every night before we went to sleep, which is, this, which is why my prayer life is so strong. But we didn't go to church all the time. And so that's kind of how I grew up, with like a strong understanding of God, Jesus, all of like the faith backing, but without a real kind of compass to guide me. If that makes sense.
So either one of you can field this one. I kind of want to, what was like, did you have some sort of like flash in the pan moment, or was it a gradual realization that you were kind of piquing interest into the Catholic Church? Like, how did that come about? Because you'd have a lot of people would assume that it's such a dramatic leap. I like to think of it like once you start looking for answers, it kind of points you in that direction inevitably. So how did that look for each of you?
Mine was very dramatic, very flash in the pan.
Always.
So this was after I graduated and I had started my first big girl job in Dallas. And I met who is now one of my best friends, Lauren. And we were hanging out one day and we were literally in an Uber on the way to a piano bar. And I find out that she's Catholic. And even though I didn't go to church all the time growing up and I was pretty lukewarm, I knew what I knew, right? And I love to debate. I love to have conversations about topics like this in general. And I found out that she was Catholic. And from spending time with her so far, I was like, this girl's so great. I cannot let her be Catholic and go to hell. I have to convert her. And so I start asking her questions about things that I had heard about the faith. And she actually had like answers that I couldn't respond to because I didn't know that much about Catholicism because I wasn't raised around a lot of Catholics. I just had heard some very specific things.
She's a walking catechism.
Oh, she
Like,
is.
yeah.
She is.
She's got all her
She's
answers.
like, boom. She knows it word for
She
word.
does. And so in that conversation, we're now out of the Uber and we're sitting on the sidewalk continuing this conversation. We're not heated, but we're passionate about what we're talking about.
Forget the pianos.
Oh, yeah. And we end up having like a 3-hour-long conversation about it. And I walk away from that conversation saying, all right, I've got to do everything in my power to convert her. I've got to go find all the answers and I've got to come back to her and I'm going to convert her over. And she's walking away from the same conversation going, yes, yes, I've planted the seed. And so that lit my spark.
I love that story. That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Did you ever make it to the piano bar?
No. We
So good.
almost closed the
that
place
night.
down. Not that night. Yeah. We left. We called another Uber and we were like, this was great. You know,
Closed
we
it
both
from
like
the
loved
outside.
it. Yeah. We had such a great time and it was like the best night ever, but we did not make it inside.
Do you remember, was there anything where you, like, what were like the 2 or 3 things where you were like, I don't even know what to say to that? Like, was there anything you remember off the top of your head?
Mary and the Saints, obviously, because I was like,
Okay.
you're praying to Mary. And then she obviously told me the whole spiel. And I was like, that can't be right. But obviously I don't know because I haven't looked into it. So I was like, okay, put a pin in that one. All of them were like that. So purgatory.
This is before Chat GPT too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you could have really expedited that process with ChatGPT. So how long do you think you like actually took the deep dive before you had another conversation with that friend?
Oh, no. Well, we worked together. So I saw her on Monday. That was on Friday. And so I took the weekend and I researched like crazy. And then I show up on Monday at like 7 a.m. to my job and bust through the doors and say, well, what do you think about purgatory? And then she would answer. And then I would say, okay, cool. And I'd have that in my mind. And then I'd go back to my desk and do my work. And then I'd go home and I'd spend another couple of hours researching that topic. And then I'd find another one through my research that I was like, wait, what? And then the cycle would continue. And I actually started to go to mass with her. But I went to mass and my church because I had to have both.
Okay. First of all, where were you doing the research? Where'd you get your research from when you did this? Do you
Google,
remember?
everywhere.
Just Googling
Articles,
any kind of thing?
Catholic answers. I went everywhere. I didn't want to just get Catholic sources. I wanted to also get Protestant sources. The internet is wide.
Okay. Did she invite you to mass or did you say, I'm going to go to mass with you?
She invited me.
Nice.
She is a true evangelist.
It's kind of an uncomfortable thing to do, is like to invite someone that you know might not jive with everything in a Catholic mass, but I'm so glad you took her up on it.
This is her thing. She is.
I want to meet this friend.
Oh, you would.
Does
love
she
her.
visit Auburn occasionally?
She has once, yeah, Lauren.
Okay. Lauren,
Alex
you should come back. You should join the podcast, actually.
yeah, she really should.
Sounds
really
like a
should.
fantastic time. They can come on too. It'll be a reunion of sorts.
Yeah,
Chase, you want to, I don't know if you have a story like that, but here we go, man.
I was listening to my wife talk. What's the question?
Yeah. So, what lit the spark, essentially? What was like the thing that unlocked the door, opened the door? Was there a moment or was there like a seed that was there that then sprouted? How did like
it was a slow burn for me. And I think we talked about this at lunch today too. Like God kind of takes your like interest and then uses them to bring you to the Catholic Church. Like hers is debate. She loves to debate. She'll debate anybody. And then that's exactly what he did, right? Like put her up against an awesome Catholic and she gets smoked and then she becomes a Catholic.
Carly's like, I didn't get smoked, okay? I didn't get smoked.
Well,
I made some good points.
Perfected with the truth.
and for me, it's my curiosity, I would say. And then I don't operate well in the gray area. Well, I'll say this. If there's gray area, I'll operate there, right? So I don't like it in my life, right? And what I found was with non-denominational churches when I was going in Atlanta, I was going every Sunday. I didn't like the fact that, I would go to church and I would hear, a sermon on a specific verse or book, and then something would pop up on, YouTube or, Facebook or something. And it was on the same verse, but it was a completely different interpretation.
Yeah.
And so for me, like just the way, I guess my mom had Tylenol when she was pregnant with me, but like the way my brain works, I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. And so it's kind of sad. I actually stopped going to church and then I started looking into the Catholic Church like well before I met you. But I'll say this, and it's kind of like sissy and embarrassing. I was so intimidated. There's so much doctrine, theology. Stand up, sit down, kneel. Like there's so much going on with the Catholic Church that I didn't have any Catholic friends growing up, right? Like we grew up in the Bible Belt, like Baptist town, right? And, my parents hadn't practiced since they were children. And it was just very intimidating to me. And I never would put myself out there and go. But I started to read more and more and more. And we'll get into this later. And it's kind of funny. Like I ran into you and you were going through your confirmation. Like we met a month before your confirmation. Yeah.
So I have to ask because we haven't actually, you and I have not talked too much about like what your faith formation so Chase went to a Christian school here in town for what grades were you?
I went K through 12. Yeah.
K through 12, which is awesome, but I'm sure it does instill in you some sort of misconceptions or opinions on Catholicism. So kind of where was your stance on Catholicism before you got to that research point? What were your thoughts on it?
I would say indifferent. Like I didn't, because I hadn't come into contact with it. It wasn't like I had a negative disposition or positive. It was just indifferent. But like the one thing was, if you look at all these like gangster movies, I know this sounds crazy. Everybody walks in to the Catholic Church, and this is a funny aside, but I always thought like there was always a priest in the confessional because in every one of those gangster movies, they walk in there and a priest is in there. But like you walk in there and it's like, oh, you get to confess your sins. Like it's very reverent. It's very holy. So I thought it was kind of cool. I'm like, that's again, black and white, which I like, And so to answer your question, again, no negative or positive feeling, just indifference.
All right. Question for each of you. Chase, when you started, it was intimidating. You started reading. Was there anything in particular you were looking at or reading? And also, did you go to your grandparents with anything about Catholicism since you came from both sides?
I didn't. You didn't know this when you asked that question. My grandparents were dead at the time.
I thought that might be a possibility.
So they had passed away, and my grandmother passed away in 2013. So this is around like 2016.
Okay.
When I started looking into it, there wasn't anything from the offset.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was telling Karlie this earlier at lunch, there is something right before or when you really started to like, we got serious and you're like, would you convert? There is something, and it's John chapter 6. Like,
okay, we'll get to that. Yeah.
I don't want to get.
No, we'll get to it. Karlie, you said something that I've heard before, but I always ask this question when I hear it. I've got a converter. she's Catholic. I got to convert her, and so she doesn't go to hell. Why are Catholics going to go to hell? Where does that come from? What is that? Why are we going? Tell me.
It comes from Texas. Right?
Well, it comes from people misunderstanding the relationship with Mary and the saints, and they think that we're worshiping them, and so they think that we're disobeying God's orders and committing idolatry.
Check.
It's kind of crazy, the 180 turn that any kind of convert
Woo.
in your shoes, now that you're like, I'm sure you have some sort of devotion to Mary and everything. It's just like, it's wild. Chase, I do want to go back to your journey through the Episcopalian Church, because my wife was Episcopalian, like very, very much involved in the Episcopalian Church. And she, very similarly to what you were saying, was home there, but then was getting more lost as she grew and got more mature, and was looking for more answers, but could not find them in Episcopalian Church, because in the way she says it is, they're more creedal, not doctrinal.
Mhm.
So was that kind of the tipping point of like, I just need answers? You already said black and white is better for you than gray.
Yeah. So like Episcopalian Catholicism, that was kind of where it's like, something's not right. Like I need to do some digging here and to figure out, is there something that adheres more to what I interpret the Bible to say, right? And not to say that I'm like the arbiter, because I'm absolutely and surely not, but what I thought to be true, I found out in that moment, like wasn't. And so I went searching.
Before we move on to kind of the actual discovering of the Catholic faith and your journey into it, you did mention John chapter 6. So I'd like each of you to kind of address, what was your stance on the Catholic belief of body, blood, soul, and divinity present in the Eucharist before you really did your dive, but when you were in your Protestant years?
We actually talked about this today, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, for me, it was completely symbolic. I was raised Baptist and non-denominational, so I was on like way the other side of almost every topic. So yeah, it was just a symbol, nothing more. And we didn't even need to do it every week. We did it, maybe once or twice a year. So, and that was like fine by me. I was like, cool, great. But obviously,
Was
it's
it
changed.
weird, like when you thought of, or did you really not even realize that Catholics took it that seriously?
It wasn't at the forefront of my mind when I started looking into it. That really came a little closer to my conversion. Some of the other hot button topics were first and foremost, and I didn't really understand the fullness of the teaching until I was like a little further in my research and was more open, I would say.
Yeah. So I never knew growing up, despite my parents and their formative years being Catholic, that when Catholics took the Eucharist, that they believed that it was the body and the blood of Christ. It wasn't until, let's go back to 2018, so 7 years ago, I was dating a girl, obviously not my wife, and I brought up Catholicism and we started talking about it, and she was very turned off by the Catholic faith. And she made a comment and she said, "Oh, so like Christ on a cracker." To which, one, I didn't know how offensive that was at the time I heard it. But I will say it was interesting because it got me to look into it. And I'm like, what does she mean by that? And then it brought me to John chapter 6, which again is like I would say the tipping point in my faith, right? I mean, you guys have read it. We've all read it. Jesus proclaims, "Eat my flesh." And he lost followers. And not for 1 second does he say, "Oh, wait. I was just speaking metaphorically or symbolically." Yeah. And I think what's funny is, and we talked about this, usually when they bring up the Eucharist, they talk about the Last Supper, right? And they're all like, "Do this in remembrance of me." It's like, yeah, My grandfather might have died. He loved this golf course. We go play it every year in remembrance of him. So that never really like stuck with me. So then I had to go back to John chapter 6 and really read that diligently and digest that. It's a heavy book, right? It's a heavy book. And I think that was, I would say, probably the turning point for me. I mean, not probably, definitively the turning point for me.
Okay. Thank y'all for sharing that stuff. Okay, so you both have been sparked. You both have had, you've been challenged by a good friend, going to mass a little bit. We've been hit with John 6. So tell us now how you went from researching and learning to the thought in the head of, okay, Catholicism is a real possibility for me.
So for me, I was sitting in the researching phase for quite a while. And it wasn't until the Easter before I converted that I went with Lauren to her family's in Denver for Easter. And I was like, great, I'll meet Lauren's parents. She comes from a family of 5. She is definitely influenced a number of people into converting, but also her younger brother is now going into the seminary. So I was like, okay, these people know what they're talking about. They're doing something right here. And I want to talk to them about this. I've got burning questions that I've got to ask them. So I went for the weekend and I asked them all my questions. It was great. I got some, material to bring back and research some more. And her grandma came over and their extended family came over for dinner one night. And I was talking to her grandmother and I was like telling her about my journey and all the things and a couple of the things that I thought about Catholics that had been, knocked down. And I didn't realize how significant this moment was for me until later when she was like, well, what are you waiting on? And I was like, I mean, what do you mean? I still have all of these things that I'm not sure about and I need to go research some more and I really need to fully be completely in line with everything that the Catholic Church teaches before I become Catholic. And she was like, oh, honey, like if you do that, you might never become Catholic and you'll be sitting here in this rat race, busying yourself until 2 a.m. every night trying to find the answers. And she was basically showing me how prideful I was being in holding myself as the authority instead of being like, they've already proven you wrong 6 times, 7 times. How many more times do you need before you realize that you can trust them? And that was the big pivotal moment for me, was the authority of the church. That was kind of my last hang up, and the thing that really set me over was I'm trusting myself to know everything and to be the final say of what I deem correct or not, as opposed to this over 2,000 year old church. And people have dedicated their lives to doing this. Like if I dedicate my whole life to researching, I still probably definitely won't know as much as they do. And so that was the moment that I was like, what am I waiting on? Nothing.
I love it because as a cradle Catholic, there are so many moments in my life where I'm still, even to this day, almost weekly, it's like I have so much more to learn. Again, I consider myself very strong in my faith, especially compared to where I've been in my life, but you cannot learn everything. It's just impossible. So do you think, based off of your journey and what you just said, do you think that's a common pitfall from a lot of people who might have that curiosity, but think that it's like, no, I have to figure out every little piece, every puzzle piece needs to come together before I make the leap?
Oh, for sure. I'm sure for a lot of converts, that's probably the case. But I also, in saying that, I don't want anybody to think that I sat back and was just like, okay, submit in everything that the church teaches. I'm going to now believe without understanding the fullness of the teaching. I was still going after it.
Too hard-headed for that.
Yeah, too hard-headed for that. How
would you know, Chase?
Our kids.
Yeah, I still wanted to know why they taught that, and I wanted to really understand it as much as I possibly could. And I think, in that, I never wanted to just be okay with saying like, oh, yep, I'm just going to believe whatever the church teaches. Sometimes I say, okay, there's something that's contradictory in my mind and the church's mind. And the church asks us to always pursue closeness. So to really understand and remove that contradiction from our mind and to seek that through knowledge of what the church's stances are and why those stances are there. So I think there's this constant pursuit, right? That's never going to end. And I love that now because I can rest in the church's teachings while also trying to remove that contradiction from my mind.
It's that full deposit of faith that is so exciting, I think, as a Catholic, because when you come up against something that may not sound so easy to understand on the surface,
Yeah.
then you do your deep dive, then you inevitably come to that truth that, oh, wait a second. No, it is true, and it is beautiful, and it is the right thing to believe. And I really appreciate you sharing that. But
And we both kind of view ourselves as baby Catholics still. We're like, we're still like fresh in this. I'm like 7 years into it, but there's still we were talking about it today. There's still stuff that pops up all the time that we're like, oh, I don't know if I know the church's teaching on that. And then you go and you find out, and you're like, interesting, cool, okay, good to know.
Our ex-brother, Ed Kearns, I just love the line. He said, Catholicism is like being in the Palace of Versailles. Like everywhere you turn, there's just another room. And you just open up another door. Oh, wow, what's in here? And and it's like that forever. You're just going to always open this other door for another room. And it's so cool. So I have another question, but before we get to that, Chase. So yes, the moment where you felt like Catholicism was a real possibility for you, or maybe that's a shorter part of the journey, but when did that come?
I think God moves in mysterious ways. And, I got this one question quite a bit when I decided to go through RCIA and convert. Everybody asked me, because we were getting very serious in our relationship, be like, oh, you're converting with her. You're converting for her. And my answer was always no, but reflecting back on it, isn't that so freaking beautiful that God sent me one, like, I love a beautiful woman, but God sent me a beautiful, kind, compassionate, stubborn, no, I'm just kidding. amazing woman to just give me a little push. And that's all I needed. Because again, like from 2016 to this point, it's 2020. I got confirmed. COVID was weird, so I think I got confirmed in 2021. I would have gotten confirmed in 2020, but he sent me this beautiful woman to bring me to him. Of course, yeah, I'm converting with her and for her. Like, what's the problem? What's the problem in that? And so I credit it all to you. Thank you, baby. I remember the first mass I went to was the Easter Vigil. Yeah.
Your first
thrown
mass
into the fire.
was the Easter Vigil.
Yeah. I'm like,
and you went back to another one too.
The Easter Vigil was all of Holy Week.
Yeah.
You come all of Holy Week?
Yeah, I came all of, yeah, I did.
You didn't let him tiptoe into this whatsoever.
Well,
you just
so she's
threw
like,
him to the wolves.
you don't have to go. You don't have to go. And I'm like, no, I want to go. Like, I want to support you. She's getting confirmed. So she was not Catholic yet. And I'm looking at her friends who are both Catholic. And I'm like, God, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. But yeah, it was that moment where like I've been researching so much. I just needed someone to give me a little nudge and pull me into it, right? Because again, to her point, sitting there on the sidelines arguing over each little point, you could do that forever. So she needed that one nudge, just that logical, honest conversation. And I needed that one, beautiful, amazing woman to give me a little nudge and bring me to the church.
I have no idea what that feels like. And I'm just kidding. Exactly the same. See, here we are. What was that moment like before we move on? What was that moment like to watch a woman that I'm assuming you were probably already in love with?
Oh yeah.
to get lit on fire with the Holy Spirit and to go through confirmation.
It's infectious. You want that. You're like, whatever she's having, give me a piece. It was just so, like, you're in awe. It was St. Thomas Aquinas in Dallas. It was just a beautiful church. And she's up there, and there's, what do you think? Like, that church has to hold like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. It was massive and beautiful singing. It was just, and again, remember, I come from like in my 20s going to non-denominational churches, which was the spectacle on the stage, right? Which I think that has its own place, but there's something beautiful about a Latin mass, man. Singing the Ave Maria, like, come on, get out of here. And just watching her get to take all of that in and understand it. And I'm sitting here like, what's going on? I was like, I want to be where she is. I want to understand what's going on. I want to be in this, right? I don't want to be on the sidelines. I don't want to be a role player. I want to be the main character in this, dude. I want to dive into this. And that's what really got me going.
If we're not careful, this is going to turn into a pretty damn good anniversary for these two. This is pretty romantic. I'm tearing up over
Baby
here.
number 3.
Ave Maria. Okay, so there's much more to continue on with, but sort of sidebar question, but a fun question. While you're doing your research and everything, forget about people you know. When you're researching about Catholicism, was there a person in the faith in history who really just inspired you and thought, wow, who was that person?
Come on, Scott Hahn,
Ah,
Yeah.
Dr. Hahn.
the convert of converts.
Yes. Rome, sweet home.
Yes.
Oh,
Karlie.
No, he can't know her. My wife.
Honestly, when I was doing my research, no.
Okay.
I didn't dig into that part enough, or as much as I probably should have, because the saints were still very foreign to me. Like, it wasn't until probably, I got confirmed 5 years ago, probably like 6 years ago, that I really understood why we, asked the saints for their intercession. So the whole act of intercession was really foreign to me. So I would say
Okay.
no one. Yeah.
That's okay. Okay, so this is a very basic question. Y'all can just extrapolate whatever you want to say, but just tell us about OCIA. How was it? What'd you like? What did you really big points you took from it? What could we improve as a church? Just OCIA. Hit me.
Yeah, so this was back in the day when it was RCIA, and I did that in Dallas, and my sponsor was Lauren, who was with me through this whole journey. Shout out, Lauren. Love you. And so in that time, I would say there were people in different stages. And I think there could be a little bit of, I don't even know how this would go about, but people who are earlier in the stage of their journey versus people who are later in their stage of journey. Because in our small group, I know, because they obviously have lessons for each of the weeks. And I know for some of us who were a little bit more researched, we were talking about very nuanced things. And other people are like, what are you talking about? It was like very different pages in that journey. And I think we probably lost some people through that in our conversation, which was very important to us and very important in general to have for our journeys. We probably missed out on answering questions for them and like guiding them through the beginning stages of, because not everybody likes to research and not everybody likes, to do that on their own. So they kind of need somebody to teach them and to kind of walk through those kind of small group situations with them. So I would say like breaking up, I don't know how we would go about doing that, but just where people are in their journeys and helping people who are at different stages.
That's kind of wild to think about that there can be somebody who's done so much research, but then there could be somebody saying like, okay, so hold up, like who's Adam and Eve? Like it could go from such a wide range.
Well, and you have like some of these people who were converting were not Christians. So a lot of us who were having nuanced conversations came from a Christian background, but there were atheists in the group. There were people who were Muslims who didn't have the kind of foundations that we did. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe that's how you could split it up, is just like, are you converting from a Christian denomination? Do you know all of the foundations, or is this all brand new and you're learning it for the first time and you just like walked into a Catholic church and you thought it was beautiful and you decided to sign up? Because there was somebody in our group who was like that, who was like, I just think this place is cool and it draws me in and I wanted to see what it was all about. And I hope that we didn't lose that person,
Yes.
in all of our details.
What was y'all's stage of relationship when you were going through RCIA?
I met him a month. Yeah, I was about to
You
be
did
confirmed.
mention that. I'm sorry.
We had been dating for a very short time. We got serious very quickly. And in that, I was basically like, I don't want you to convert for me. I want it to be your own. But you do have to know, if you want to marry me, then you're going to have to be Catholic.
I love that you laid down the law right away, though. It was like, hey, by the way, buddy, this isn't a.
It was really important to me because the person that I dated right before him was very Baptist, like very Baptist, very.
What a bum.
He was anti-Catholic, I would say, and I was at the beginning of my OCIA or CIA classes.
Guy?
No,
Don't do this to yourself. It's your anniversary, Chase.
But I knew that it had to be somebody who was open to Catholicism and would eventually convert, if not before we got married, was on the journey themselves towards it.
Yeah, we talked about on a previous episode how when we were younger, especially I'll speak for myself, when I was younger, I never really thought it was like a deal breaker being a cradle Catholic. I was just like, well, if they're Christian, it's fine. And then at the stage I'm at now, I'm like, man, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it is really important. It's not impossible, but it's really important. Chase?
RCIA.
Star student.
Yeah. So to her point, to Karlie's point, at first I felt somewhat shameful because you see people in there that are on like step one of the conversion. Like they don't even know anything about Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And there's all walks of life, which is awesome that room was filled with people from all walks of life. But I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, I've done all this research. Like I have a good base understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And these people had the stones to show up to this unprompted without the push and go through this. So at first it was like kind of this shameful feeling. And I wouldn't recommend this. I went to about like maybe 70% of the classes, and not to rationalize it myself, but I had like access to some of the best Catholics I still know to this day. Right. And it was something that was a topic of conversation every time we got together. I will say the one thing about RCIA that I wish they would adjust is having more access to a priest. And you and I talked about this all throughout RCIA. I was like, I wish I could just sit down with a priest and have my list of questions, right? And like be able to double, triple click into things, because our RCIA was run by, it wasn't a deacon, it wasn't a priest, it was, a lay person, and they were super knowledgeable, but I mean, it's hard, right? Like the catechism's thick, right? To be able to double click, triple click into things, like you can't expect a lay person to know everything about everything. And so me being like this, curious George over here, I'm like, can we double click into things? And sometimes, it exceeded their understanding, and that's totally okay. But that's the one thing I would change.
Okay, that's a perfect segue. So thank you. I wanted to ask, in the RCIA process, even maybe early, like I've been baptized, confirmed process, were there any clergy that really helped at all? Did y'all have anybody like that in your life?
We did. Father John, who was the head priest in Dallas. He was a canon lawyer. And so he was like right up my alley. He was like really deep in everything.
No one gives a homily like.
Oh, nobody gives a confession like Father John. People were lining up. I mean, some people would avoid him because you knew that it was not going to be a thank you on your way. It was always very deep. It was always very intentional and thought out and in its fullness. And we loved him for that. And he was the kind of guy who would just sit up on the pew, and he would come out and sit up on the pew and just talk to you. And he had this like big Santa Claus vibe, but it was very deep. I would say he was like pivotal for probably both of us. And yeah.
Yeah.
Did you anything?
Yeah, I would say Father John and then Deacon Ken, who actually married us during COVID. Long story. We had to pivot venues from multiple countries. Thank you, COVID. And then we had to get married on a Friday. And Deacon Ken, who was a convert himself, married us. And this guy, I mean, he devoted his life to it. Everything in his body he devoted to understanding our Lord and to diving into the doctrine. And this guy was, again, someone that you could look at and be like, I want to be like him. Again, didn't go through seminary. Like, he's a deacon, obviously, but he was so giving, so kind, and honestly, he gave a great homily too.
And he was a Southern Baptist as well.
Yeah.
So he knew where we were coming from. And so it was very relatable. He was like, I'm sure you're thinking this. And I was like, I am thinking that. So
That's cool. What a gift.
yeah.
So you guys, thank you again for all your openness and your vulnerability, telling your story. So now let's just kind of jump into your marriage. Beautiful marriage, anniversary. So why not dive into it? How did all of this and the research and the faith formation impact your dating life at the time, impact your wedding plans leading up to it, and how has it impacted you guys both as spouses early on and even to this day?
I would say it impacted our wedding planning quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it earlier, but for the dating phase, it made us get serious faster, and it made everything kind of more serious. We both were really interested in dating for marriage anyway, but it kind of raised the stakes for us a bit. And then in planning our wedding, obviously there was specific things that we had never thought about. It was new for both of us. I had gone to one Catholic mass before we got married. So it was very new. It was very fresh. We didn't really know what to do. At one point, I was looking out at Lauren being like, am I doing this right? And she was like, yeah, you're good.
Now it's one Catholic wedding.
As a mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catholic wedding
okay,
as a mass. Yeah. Not mass. Sorry.
Yeah, we've been a bunch of mass.
One Catholic wedding
All of them.
mass before we got married.
Yeah, so it was interesting when we first started dating. Neither of us were Catholic, and as most couples do, especially in the early stages, the attraction, the lust, right? It's there, and we knew, and we both agreed to this that we're going to try our hardest, and we held to that to abstain until marriage. But there wasn't like a real good underpinning to why, other than the fact that this is something that has been indoctrinated in us since, we were young, right? Like all Christian denominations, right? But once she got confirmed, it took a whole new meaning, right? The sanctity of, I guess, virginity is going to sound weird, but the sanctity of waiting till marriage and saving yourself for your husband and your wife took a whole new meaning and a deeper understanding. And I'll say, like, was it any easier? Yes and no, right? Was it any easier in the fact that, like, did we not want each other? Like, of course we did, but was it easier in the fact that we knew what we were doing was right, why it was right, and what waited for us, on our wedding night.
Anniversary, man. This guy, he's looking for some hugs and kisses later.
Yeah, just hugs and kisses.
All right. So, Chase, tell us about what it was like for you to get confirmed, and Karlie, what it was like to watch him do that.
I don't even remember, to be honest. It was so weird because I was supposed to be confirmed the Easter of COVID. And then we were supposed to get married the following October. Well, none of that happened. And I think I got confirmed maybe in late summer, around July and August. And I think it was 4 or 5 of us, and
It's 2.
2?
You and a little boy.
Yeah, little boy.
So
Yeah.
2 little boys.
Yeah, 2 little boys. Yeah, I was like, I'm too old to ride this ride.
They did call you out by name, though. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, shout out to my little dog, wherever you are.
Yeah.
God be with you. But it was so weird because no one's in the church except my wife and this young man's family. He had a beard. He was a big boy. But no one's in the church, and it's just us and our guy, Deacon Ken, which again was why he was such like a, not to overdo it, but like a beacon of faith during COVID, right? Because all the 2 priests that we had were slammed doing other things, but he always made time for a wedding, made time for my confirmation. But sadly, it was unceremonious. But again, you don't go for the spectacle, right? I was just so elated, over the moon, and when we went home, we talked about this that night. Like, it's just this like acceptance into, I don't know, the truth. Like, you are right now. Not like I'm right in the sense of right and wrong, but I am in the right spot. I'm where I need to be. I'm here.
And for me to watch him get confirmed, it did kind of feel like it was a long time coming. He felt very much at home in the Catholic Church well before that, and he was even frustrated that he could not partake in the Eucharist because of we were waiting until he could get confirmed. So there was a little bit of like he's being held back from what he truly wants, but it was beautiful. It was very intimate, but it was at a very interesting time, and I think it was really interesting for us as converts because a lot of times in the Protestant churches, a lot of things are very emotional. The music, the lights, everything is kind of like playing on your emotions, and you really fall into that pit where if the emotion is not there, then you're not there, either in your mind or physically, right? You're just like, I'm not feeling this anymore. I'm not feeling this right now. You take a little break and then you come back to it whenever something sparks that emotion in you. And at the beginning of our marriage and at this time when he got confirmed, that was really tested within us as individuals and in our relationship of like, okay, so you can talk the talk, but let's walk the walk. Now we're removing the emotional drivers of mass and all of the people around you and the beautiful singing and everything that you've grown comfortable with and that spark emotions. And now it's just you and the Lord, because we could not go to mass. It was just online. And so it was really like a testing where it was just kind of us and God. And we really had to cling to it in a way that wasn't emotional, which is what we had done pretty much our whole Christian lives up until that point, which was really beautiful. In hindsight, it was really hard, but it was like probably just what we needed.
I love hearing that because, we live in such a culture today, of course, of like whatever makes you feel good and whatever, what's your truth and my truth. And, I think there's a lot of pushback to, know what is the truth, and relativism can go somewhere, honestly. But the fact that y'all really discerned through that and saw that, just is such a testament to where y'all were at that time and how far y'all had come. Carly, you touched on this earlier, so we'll circle back to it, but tell us about what your parents thought, guys.
My parents were not on board for the first probably 6 to 9 months. My dad is also a big debater. And so he first met it with trying to keep me away and saying like, well, what are you hearing? What are you learning? And then would come back with his response, to which I would entertain a little bit, but it was really not great for me to be doing that. And my mom was just kind of like, okay, not really happy about this, but my grandmother said, well, at least she's not becoming XYZ other religion. At least she's still in the realm of Christianity. So they were not happy, but they ended up being supportive. They came to my confirmation, and then, once it happened, they were like, that was beautiful. And it was more kind of a step back, but this is your thing, not an us thing. But really since then, they've grown to be curious. So every time I go visit them or they visit us, they'll ask questions. I'm not saying that they would ever convert or anything like that, but they're much, much more accepting. They'll go to church with me whenever I go visit them. And so it's really grown in a lot of ways. And it's always a beautiful conversation. And it's a good way for me to, continue to see where I come from and, why I do the things I do, and to kind of tell them about our beautiful faith. Mm-hmm. So they've come a long way too.
My turn.
Mm-hmm.
My folks were both very supportive and excited, to the point where I can see my dad's starting to kind of hang around the edges of the Catholic Church. I don't know a better way to put it. Doing everything, including tithing, everything except going to Mass, the most important thing.
He says, "Can I just go on Tuesday?"
Yeah, so we're still working on him. My mom, where she grew up and what happened in her parish is a little harder to get over. So we pray for her, not conversion, but coming back to the Catholic Church, like, a lot of folks during that time. But even despite her kind of own feelings towards the Catholic Church, she was very excited, very supportive. She, knows all the prayers, prays them with our children, prays them with us. And she's very involved from that standpoint, but a little standoffish still.
I actually did not know that, obviously, that your family has Catholic roots, but that you had such support when you converted. I would lean more towards the normal reaction, your typical reaction being what you said your family had. Do you feel some sort of call? I know as a cradle Catholic, I sometimes feel this, and it's a tricky line to walk, but do you feel a call to evangelize some of your family members, or is that just sort of something that just causes tension?
Yes, I don't proactively start a lot of the conversations, but I'm very, very open about what I'm doing, what I expect. Like if my kids are visiting them and I'm not there, you're going to have to take them to church. And we've had those conversations. So they know my expectations around how we'll be raising our children. I'm always letting everybody know, hey, I'm going to church. If you want to come with me, you can. It's more of that kind of thing as opposed to let's get into the, but they're all very curious. And of course, this is where all of my debate comes from is they all want to prompt and poke. So I don't really have to do a lot of proactive. They'll ask me a question, even not just my parents, but my extended family. They'll ask, what'd you learn at church today? or something like that. And so we'll start talking about it a little bit, and then if things get too heated, then I'll just say, but that's just what I believe. That's just what the church says. And we'll kind of, steer it away for a little bit. It's a very, very heated thing to talk to, between the aisles. Sometimes it's not, like with Chase's family, but for ours, it can get quite heated. So it is a line that I'm constantly towing of saying, what I believe, and not trying to like force anybody, to think what I think. And I have a strong respect for Protestants too. So they can stay where they are if they want to.
As do we all. I want that to be very clear. I think we all do. We all love our Lord and Savior. I really appreciate and respect your approach, because I feel like sometimes I take the opposite approach, and I am more of the proactive, like, okay, hang on a second. You don't believe this? We're going to hash this out now. And I catch the resistance from it because I'm more abrasive up front. And I could take a page out of your approach there. I like
I'll say
it.
face to face, I'm very reactive, but I have a whole online presence where I'm very proactive, and they all follow me on that too. So
That's fair. This is the shameless plug time. Go ahead.
I was
Go ahead.
So I have an Instagram and a TikTok, Kindred and Kairos. Y'all can link it or whatever.
We certainly will. This will be in the episode details, but y'all definitely check this out. Go ahead.
But I talk about my faith. I talk about conversion. I talk about what the church teaches and kind of some of the misconceptions that, a lot of us were raised thinking. And I talk about, a lot of the things that I stand for, being pro-life and having a good community of Catholics around you and how to go about doing that. So, yeah.
If you want to learn just some really solid, like, I'm not trying to minimize this, but like when you listen to Karlie talk online, folks, like skeleton, like basics, but like important, it makes sense, A, B, C, D, E, F, which is so important to like grasp the logic behind arguments. She's just so good at that. And I really appreciate her for that. Because, I'm someone who like, I have all the thoughts in my head and I know them, but then like articulating them in a very like concise way is a skill. And she's always had that skill. Like I said earlier, she and Chase are very intelligent people. So yeah, Kindred and Kairos. That's Kairos, by the way. So Karlie, what's the story behind the name? Tell that real quick.
I mean, it just means like a community. Obviously, with social media, you want it to feel like a community. It's a community mostly for women, but of course, you guys follow me as well. So
Woo!
For y'all too. But a community that you're building with other, Christians in general. And then Kairos is God's time. So it's living in God's time and not your own time. And I'm really big on that of like, it's not really about what I want. And that's kind of a constant struggle in myself is like, well, what do I want? Well, I want it right now. I want it here. And so just making sure that we're living in God's time and by God's will.
Sidebar here, but she also knows everything about all the great Christian and Catholic brands, all the non-toxic, and I call my wife out on this all the time, all the crunchy stuff. So if you please check it out. It's an awesome follow. It really is very, very knowledge and faith-based, and it's definitely worth it. But
thanks, guys.
Chase, what you got going on?
My family.
He's really
And
good at Call of
evangelism?
Duty. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. MLG, Halo 2, look it up. Back to your earlier question about, evangelizing your family. I think there's my mom and dad, right, who are adjacent, very close. That is frustrating in its own way. With my things with my father, where it's like, dude, can you not just commit to going to mass on Sunday? What if I want to go on a Tuesday? Bro, you got all week. Can you not commit 1 hour, sometimes 50 minutes to the Lord? And so that's one section. And I think, the one that, and we've talked about this, the one that frustrates me the most is my brother. I love my brother. He's way smarter than I am, like intellect, like very academic, extremely intelligent. And he's like a black box. You don't necessarily know what he believes in. And he's super knowledgeable about the faith though, which is very somewhat perplexing, right? You're like, I don't know what you believe, but dude, he could stand toe to toe with pretty much any theologian I know. And so I obviously trying to work to convert him.
He's who we have our practice debates with.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, so pray for his conversion. We've all talked about this, so pray for his conversion, but it's, that's one that I'm, just whittling away at. And I think over time he'll convert, but it's a timing thing, right?
Yeah. How's family life? Kids, marriage, parenthood, adulthood, all the responsibilities. We all know about those. Where you think is the faith most present in your home? Y'all have any big relationships with any saints or Our Lady? Just, any random thoughts? What do you got?
Family life is wonderful. It's a challenge, but it gives like a whole purpose to life, and which is really, for me, getting both my husband and my children to heaven. We have a lot of little things that we focus on and do throughout the day that kind of like keep it at the forefront of our minds. I would say, as far as really impactful things, we're just trying to teach them about all of the saints right now, and not like force any one saint upon them and see like who they gravitate towards. We have our own that are personal to us, but we're kind of like leaving it open, and we're still in the knowledge phase of trying to teach them about all of them and not getting too attached to some of the more popular ones, and teaching them about some of the ones that aren't talked about as much, and circling that around. But Chase mentioned earlier, his prayer life is just insane, and he oftentimes leads our family in those ways and makes sure that we're on track, not just like before bed, and not just before meals. It's constant, which is what we should be doing, right? But he is such a good leader for our family and keeping us constantly pointed in that direction, and our thoughts always there, and are in just a constant state of prayer in our home. And I would say like that's really how we're most impacting them, is they're constantly seeing us praying. We're constantly praying out loud. Of course, we're coming from the Protestant world, so a lot of our prayers are ad lib, just off the cuff, which we love. But then we're always, we have our set prayers that we also incorporate into our day to day life too. But I mean, that's a full testament to Chase, and that's really impacted my relationship too, because obviously I'm the researcher, I'm in all of the details, but my prayer life was not as strong, and so he's really kind of led me in that area too. So it's helped in our marriage and our relationship, and making sure that God stays at the center.
You guys know this as well as I do. When you become a father, you can have your faith buttoned up, but it becomes a whole new thing when you're responsible for the souls of others. And I've always thought about it this way, like, it's bowling and I suck at bowling. You guys have watched me bowl.
He's not
like,
great.
I'm trying to hum that thing right down the middle and get a strike every single time. But in faith and how I try to lead our family is my wife at the gutter rails, like the guardrails, right? She makes sure I don't put it in the freaking tank and strike out. And sometimes I've come close to that. Like we're not infallible, and I'll say that regardless of your faith background, especially having a daughter and then having a son, like my daughter's going to look to me and look for that man in her life, and she's going to emulate. She's going to hope that man emulates me. So what man do I want to be? Like, what man do I want her to look for? I want him to be a Catholic man for sure, right? Obviously. But not just in name only, but in practice. And so if I want her to go find that, well, I have to be that, right? And same for my son. And this is something that I love my father to death, right? Great man, great prayer life, great Christian, not a Catholic, right? Which is fine. But I want my son to have that beacon, that example to go and then lead his family much better than I ever have or ever will. And so I think, from a Catholic standpoint, it's how do I set the example every day? And it's so hard. You guys know this. Every day, waking up, not being frustrated, not, snapping at my wife. Like everybody argues, not, getting frustrated with your children, but being that calm, cool, present rock always. And that's tough. But I will say, without Catholicism, without my faith, I mean, that would be virtually impossible.
And I think one of the things, as both of us are converts, that we want to make sure that we don't lose is some of the like really great pros that we've got from how we were raised, which is the ability to just be like a conversationalist with God. And I know some Catholics feel comfortable doing that and some Catholics don't. And we want to make sure that they get all of the good things from how we were raised, but none of the kind of pitfalls that we see in other cradle Catholics where they don't know why they're doing certain things. We want to make sure that all of those practices, all of those rituals, all of those traditions, they know why, so that they don't end up falling away or not able to stand toe to toe with some little Baptist girl who thinks that she knows what Catholics, believe and doesn't. We want them to go and be the Laurens of the world that are able to go then convert people because they were not only raised in it, but they know why. And obviously they're a little bit too young for that, but that's what we aspire to.
She knows her prayers.
She does know her prayers.
She knows her prayers.
She does.
And the last thing, just for this is the Catholic Dad Pod. So for all fathers out there, and I'm gonna shoot you straight. There are moments. There's plenty of Sundays where I don't want to wake up. I don't want to go to mass. I'm sick. I don't feel good. I didn't sleep well. We've got young kids. But get your butt up and go. One, like you need to go. It's good for your soul. And then two, like what example do you want to set for your kids? Do you want them to feel like it's okay to just wake up based off your emotions and your feelings? Do I go to mass or do I not? Like, no, you go every Sunday. Rain, snow, sun, doesn't matter.
Well, I know I speak for both of our families, and Tess and I had just spoken about this the other night, that you guys do an exceptional job raising your kids, and you definitely prioritize your faith, chase the spiritual leadership that you provide, and I didn't even know how much you take the reins in that prayer life. I would have already called you a great spiritual leader and the man of your house, but now I even hold you in a higher regard. So kudos to you, my brother. That's really special.
Got a good coach.
Y'all's story is a really awesome testament to what that journey toward truth can provide in a marriage and in dating and marriage and now in parenthood. And I really, really appreciate you guys sharing it. Alex, you got anything else? We've been, we could probably go all night, but it is their anniversary.
Oh, we could keep talking very easily. I know y'all talked about, introducing all the saints, even the less popular ones, but I do have the distinct honor of being your son's godfather. And Saint Benedict and I come together every day for your son. I just want y'all to know that. He is there every day with me for him. I love getting to say "Godson" and just greet him, and I know he has no idea who I am, but I am very excited about that relationship. To move forward. So yes, every single day, I promise you that. I have one more question, simple question. I don't know, maybe not, but just popped into my head, so I'm going to take it from the Lord. What do the words "and the gates of hell will not prevail against it" mean to y'all?
Made it through a whole
No.
podcast.
I won't. So Alex, to answer your question, I do think back to when I was discerning and researching and looking into Catholicism and the rich history there. The church has been around, since Jesus. Peter, I will establish this church upon this rock. There's nothing that's going to break it. There's nothing that's going to stop it. There's nothing that's going to change it. Think about anything else in this world that's lasted for over 2,000 years. There's been massive empires. There's been armies. Everything that you can think of, and nothing has lasted as long as the Catholic Church, despite all the shortcomings, despite all the allegations, despite all the violence that's been levied against it. I mean, you look at Africa right now, not to get too political, but like you look at what's going on over there, nothing will stop it. Nothing on this earth will stop it.
For me, it makes me think of the quote from John Paul II, where he says, "We must defend the truth at all costs, even if we are reduced to just 12 again." To really echo what Chase said, like, we have to stand for what's true and not just, fall to what society wants us to think is true or says is true or the trending thing or whatever. We must stand for the truth and defend it.
I actually had never heard that quote before.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
That's why God airmails me stuff to get that quote on the podcast.
That's what it was. I really enjoyed every minute of this. Both of you. I do want to say, I want to get Karlie the debater on here at one point, because Karlie the wife and Chase the husband, this has been exceptional. And I love having our dear friends on here.
Very much so.
But yeah, we're gonna pull that competitive debater out of you one time. We're gonna get you back on here.
I'm happy to.
But
anytime.
Yeah, guys, awesome. And the fact that you're here on your anniversary, we're honored to host you. We feel so bad for wasting so much of your time. And let me do it for just another second, because a couple housekeeping things here, guys. Like we said, we do have a website. Go check it out. We got some new t-shirts up there. It's not much, y'all, but if you go ahead and, purchase a t-shirt from us, it helps us, I don't know, maybe buy another microphone, improve the set, make sure we keep this thing going. 26 episodes, half a year, guys. Half a year. Yeah. What an awesome episode to have for our half year mark. And we're really honored and blessed. Check out Totally Catholic Tees. Our boys over at Sock Religious. I've been rocking my monstrance socks to mass the last couple of weeks. But yeah, guys, again, we're praying for all of y'all, and we definitely hope you're praying for us as well and our families and this beautiful couple here on their anniversary. Do you guys have any quick challenges for our listeners before we sign off?
The next week. That's what we did.
Pray the rosary every day.
It's October.
What did Pope Leo said? Pray the rosary every day in October for peace in the world. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
Love it. Good challenge.
Boom.
I got him.
If you take the Pope's challenge, though, is it really a Chase challenge? I appreciate it, though. Take the easy way out. I did it last week.
By me.
Here we go. You got one?
No, I mean,
You guys aren't married, so
yeah.
What's his is yours. There we go. Alex?
We love you guys. We love you very, very much. Love you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Happy anniversary. May God bless you with many, many more years. We look forward to it, all the memories, and see your children grow, be a part of it. Folks, we love you. We're praying for you. Pray for us. See you next week on the Catholic Dad Pod. Hit it, Ryan.
Nope. He gets the honorary paper toss. You gotta try to hit the camera.
Okay.
You go.
Don't drill it. Lob it. This guy's like Aaron Rodgers over here.
If I would have drilled it, if I'd have talked back, I would have hit it.
Okay, we all know where you went to high school. You're not going to hit it.
Fun.
If you would have gone to public school. I would
have gone. Peace.
Sick. Love it.